The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It tapped gently against the living room windows, a soft rhythm that echoed the ache in my heart. I sat curled up on the couch, wrapped in the gray fleece blanket that still carried faint traces of his cologne. For the 100th time, I stared at the photo on the mantel, James, my husband, smiling under the warm Californian sun, holding our dog Max with one arm and wrapping the other around my waist. That picture had become both a treasure and a torment. It had been 7 months since James was declared dead. The words still felt foreign in my mouth, even as I repeated them to friends, family, and strangers who offered their condolences. He had been on a business trip to Brazil, representing the firm he'd worked for nearly 10 years. When the plane he was supposed to be on crashed somewhere in the Atlantic, the airline confirmed that all passengers on the manifest perished. I remember the moment the call came. My legs gave out beneath me. I could still feel the cold tiles against my knees. They never recovered his body. At first, that gave me a ridiculous sliver of hope. Maybe he hadn't boarded the flight. Maybe there had been some mistake. I obsessed over the news coverage, combing through every update, every statement. I called the airline a dozen times. I even begged one of his coworkers, Evan, to double-check the boarding logs. But eventually, the reality crushed my denial. His name was on the manifest. The seat was assigned to him. That was that. Since then, life had become a blur. I'd buried myself in routines, clinging to the idea that moving forward didn't mean forgetting. Max, our golden retriever, became my shadow. He never left my side, as if he, too, was trying to fill the massive void James left behind. My friends tried to pull me out of the fog. Emily, my best friend since college, invited me out every weekend. My sister, Natalie, spent hours just sitting with me, offering quiet support. But nothing could quite reach the hollow space inside me. That rainy Tuesday afternoon was supposed to be like any other. I had just finished folding laundry when Max barked short and sharp. I looked toward the front door, puzzled. We weren't expecting anyone. Curious, I moved toward it, the creak of the wood floors under my feet the only sound. I peeked through the peephole and froze. A man stood there, soaked from the rain, his hood down, revealing dark, tousled hair. Something about his posture, the tilt of his head, seemed familiar. My breath caught in my throat. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Then I opened it. My heart stopped.
James.
It wasn't just someone who looked like him. It was him.
Alive.
Breathing. Right there on our front porch. I stumbled backward. James? I whispered. He looked at me, his eyes wide, as if unsure how I would react. Maggie, he said, voice raspy. I'm home. I think I screamed.
Or cried.
Or both. I wasn't sure. My vision blurred with tears as I rushed into his arms, my knees buckling as I touched his face, his chest, anything to confirm he was real. Max barked wildly, circling us before launching himself into James's legs. It took a long time before either of us could speak in full sentences. I brought him inside, sat him down on the couch, and made him tea, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the mug. He looked tired, thinner than I remembered, with a slight scar near his hairline. His eyes, though, were the same, those calm, intelligent hazel eyes I had fallen in love with. I don't know where to start, he said finally. Start anywhere, I said, clutching the edge of my seat. I thought you were dead, James. They said, everyone said.
He sighed.
I was on the flight manifest. I was supposed to be on that plane. But there was a delay. A last-minute meeting in Sao Paulo with a local partner. My boss asked me to stay an extra day. I didn't even have time to call you before they took my phone for security purposes. I thought I'd just board the next flight the following day. But the crash, I whispered. I found out when I turned on the news that night, he said, his voice cracking. And then everything spiraled. My passport and ID had been stolen, pickpocket, probably. I didn't realize until I got to the consulate. They didn't believe who I was. There was chaos. Long lines. No one cared about one more American without papers. But for 7 months? I asked, tears spilling again. He ran a hand through his hair. They put me in a holding facility. Said they needed to verify my identity. My fingerprints didn't match with the outdated records they had. And then, I got sick. Some kind of infection. I was out for weeks. When I came to, more time had passed. By the time I convinced someone to help me call the U.S. Embassy again, they realized the mistake. But it took weeks to get my documents sorted, to get approval to fly home. I stared at him, stunned. Why didn't they call me? Let me know you were alive. They said they would, he said bitterly. I guess something slipped through the cracks. Bureaucracy. Miscommunication. I don't know. I was silent, absorbing the impossible truth. I mourned you, I said, my voice trembling. I had a service for you. I spread ashes they said were from the wreckage. James leaned forward, taking my hands in his. I know. I can't imagine what I put you through.
I'm so sorry, Maggie.
I wanted to come home every day, every minute, but I couldn't. And now, I just want to make things right. I looked at him, searching his face for any sign of a lie, a trick. But it was all him. The man I married. The man I thought I lost forever. The next few days felt surreal. News of James's return spread quickly. Emily fainted when she saw him. My sister hugged him so tightly she cried for an hour. The company he worked for issued a public apology for the confusion and sent a legal team to sort things out. Reporters showed up at our door. Some neighbors avoided us altogether, unsure how to react to someone who had come back from the dead. But for me, the adjustment wasn't just about the shock.
It was deeper than that.
I had been grieving for so long. I had started to rebuild piece by piece. I'd even gone on a date just 2 months ago, an awkward coffee meetup with a coworker from the local library where I now worked. Nothing came of it, but I remembered the guilt I'd felt, thinking I was betraying James's memory. And now he was here.
Alive.
Lying in bed next to me again. Laughing at our inside jokes. Holding my hand while we walked Max cooking Sunday breakfast like he used to. It was like stepping into a dream I never thought I'd wake up to. But dreams come with shadows. James wasn't quite the same. He had nightmares, violent ones. He woke up sweating, gasping for air, sometimes calling out in Portuguese, which he must have picked up while trapped there. He flinched at loud noises. He never spoke about what happened in detail, but I knew it haunted him. One night, he finally opened up. I thought I'd never see you again, he said softly. Some nights, I'd lie on that hard cot, wondering if you'd moved on. If you hated me. If you'd think I abandoned you. I kept rehearsing how I'd explain everything, over and over. But nothing ever seemed right. You don't have to explain anymore, I whispered. You're here. That's all that matters. But I realized that wasn't entirely true. Because something had changed in me too.